Hello, everybody. Welcome to our August Training Tuesday event for OU Campus. Today's topic is Managing Access Everywhere. We're going to discuss access settings in OU Campus that are less commonly used, such as for gadgets, assets, templates, and more. During the presentation, all participants will be in a listen-only mode as the session is being recorded. If you have a question during the presentation, please use the Q&A function so that we have your email address in case your question requires follow-up. We will attempt to address your questions during the presentation. After the formal presentation has ended, we will review and answer all remaining questions. Your presenter today is Barbara McQuillan, software trainer. Barbara, I will hand it over to you.
Thank you very much, Erica. All right, welcome everyone. Today we're going to be talking about managing access everywhere. And let's start by talking about what we're going to talk about. So on the list for today, we're just going to talk a little bit in general about access in OU Campus, what that means, what it is that we're trying to set here. We'll talk a little bit about inheritance and precedence. So these are things that you should be aware of when you're setting access. It has to do with which particular settings will take precedence, which ones are going to just be inherited if you don't make any changes. Those are going to apply to kind of the classic access settings that you're probably familiar with. When we jump into our live demonstration, I have a whole list here of all the different access settings that you can set. Some of them are directly on the content, so your typical inheritance and precedence may not apply there because you're at the content, but we'll go through it. All right, so let's talk a little bit just generally about access. The key term here, when we talk about access, we're talking about who can go where in your site. It has to do with locking individual pieces of content or opening them up to particular groups. So if you have an academics directory, do you want everyone inside OU Campus to be able to get into that directory and get to your pages? Or do you want to lock that door so that way only certain people can get to it? Access settings that we're going to talk about today follow the same generalized rule. Part of it has to do with whether or not certain options are even going to appear for your users. So we'll go through that. You can determine your access settings by assigning groups of users to particular pieces of content. So you will need users and groups already established inside your system. An important note here, the access settings we're going to talk about today are going to apply to your lower level users. So 8 and below are going to be affected by these access settings. Your level 9 and level 10 administrators, because they're an administrative level, these access settings will not affect them. They'll still be able to see all the different things that we may be locking for the lower level users. So just keep that in the back of your mind. So let's talk about inheritance and precedence. Access settings, generally speaking, when you're setting them, you're going to want to start at the top level and set down from there. The closer you are to the content, the more precedence that particular setting will take. So traditionally, when you're setting access, you're usually going to start at the site level. Then directly underneath that, you can set individual access settings to each one of your directories. If you don't set anything differently on these directories, they'll simply inherit whatever you had set at the site level. Same for your pages. If you don't set anything different here, they'll simply inherit from the directory level. And then even as nuanced as editable regions on a particular page. If you don't set it any differently, it'll inherit from that page level. So an important thing to be aware of is if I set at the very top level at my sites, everyone has access to everything. And I don't set anything in any of these lower levels any different, that means everyone has access to everything. But should I make a change, say on the pages level, and say that there's one particular page, only the marketing group has access to it. Because that level is closer to the content, that particular setting will take precedence. So that page and all the editable regions inside of it are only going to be accessible by the marketing group. So any settings that you create that are closer to the content will override settings at a higher level. Those are the ones that take precedence. So let's jump inside OU Campus right now and we'll start looking at how these different access settings can be set. Perfect. All right, so I'm currently looking at my sandbox environment, my cute little Galena University. Scrolling all the way down to the bottom, on my site, my direct edit link is this last updated date. So I'm going to go ahead and click there. And I'm going to log in as a level 10 administrator. This will allow me to set all of those access settings as we go. I am also going to open up a second incognito window. I'm going to go to the exact same site, and I'm going to log in again, but this time I'm going to log in as a lower level user. This way, every time you see this black incognito window across the top, you know I'm going to be that lower level user, and we'll be able to see the effects of the changes that we're creating. So I'm just going to log in as some random person in the marketing department. Perfect. And here I see I'm some marketing employee. This particular user that I've created as our demonstration purposes is going to be a level 6. So they'll be affected by our access settings, but they are slightly higher, so they'll have access to some more things based upon their user level. We'll go into all of those as we go through it. So back here to my regular window, here I am, Barbara McQuillan. This is my level 10 administrator. So typically speaking, when we're talking about access, I'm going to imagine that most of you guys have experience setting access on particular folders, directories, or individual files. So going to our Pages list view, by either clicking on the Pages link inside my breadcrumb, or hovering over content and going to Pages, either way, it'll bring me back out to my Pages list view. So let's say we're taking a look at this About section here. From here, I can go ahead and make changes to the access. Taking a look at the world as my cute little marketing person. Back to content pages, you'll notice every single file, every folder in here right now is a clickable link. Everything's open. So this current site has everyone listed as having access to everything right now. So let's talk about locking that down. Back over to my level 10 administrator, hovering over About, hovering over Edit, I'm going to go to Access. Now at the top, I have an option here because I'm looking at a folder or directory that says Recursive Modification. Recursive modification allows me to take the settings that I'm about to apply on this folder and push them down into every piece of content that is inside it. So every subfolder, every subsection, every file, everything in here already will gain this. Recursive modification is super powerful. But do keep in mind, there is no undo button when you are making changes to your access settings. So if I just spent the last hour and a half going through every single individual page inside my About section and assigning appropriate access to every single page, and then I come out here and I choose the option, apply the select settings to this folder and all enclosed folders, I'm going to take this and push it down. So I'm about to lose everything that I just had that's lower level. This is very helpful if I'm first getting things set up at the beginning. So I'm just establishing a new section. Everything, just about everything is going to have the same access settings, and only one file here or there may have differences. This is a great option for you. But if your site is already established and you already have access settings going, you're going to want to avoid using recursive modification because then you're going to have to go back in and make adjustments again. So because I have not started anything in here yet, everything's brand new, I will go ahead and choose the Apply Recursive settings so that way everything inside will get it. I'm going to choose an access group. So my marketing person is part of the marketing group. Let's assign this to someone else. So this is my About section. Maybe this will go to my Admissions group. So choosing my Admissions group, bottom right-hand corner, I'm going to hit Save. Notice my view as my level 10 administrator hasn't changed. It looks exactly the same. It's because those access settings will not affect my level 10 administrator. I still have access everywhere. But if I look at that incognito window again, as my marketing employee, I do a quick refresh, you'll see that About folder, I can still see the text on it, but the text is now black and it's not clickable. This is what it looks like when I don't have access to something. So I can confirm from here that the About folder is now assigned to a group that I'm not a part of, so I do not have access to it. I do, however, have access, say, to the academic section. So let's go inside there. We'll take a typical page. Maybe we'll look at the library page here. So this is still open to me. I still have access to it. And looking at the information in here, I have individual editable regions, say my main content, my content region over here. I can set access on individual editable regions as well. So let's talk about how to do that. So back to the world is my level 10. I'll go ahead and open up academics and open up that library page as well. I'm going to need to take possession of this page by having it checked out to me so I can get into the source code. Setting access on editable regions does require source code access because I need to change it in the hard code here. So let's go ahead and find that main content region again. There it is. Nope, page style displays over the main content. Keep looking. Nope, that one. So inside this source code, every one of my editable regions is going to be a pair of OUC : nodes. The first one is going to be an OUC div. This is taking the page and creating a division on it or a section on it. So that way I have somewhere to put my editable region. If there's a WYSIWYG editor that's going to be a part of this region, the next node that I'll see will say OUC editor. So I know this is my editable region. It has the editor in it, and I can see the button text says main content. So this is that main content editable region, and I can see right here, there's a group assigned to everyone. So this means everyone that has access to this particular page will be able to open up and make adjustments to this editable region. Maybe I want to lock this one out. I'm just going to change the text that's inside this set of double quotes. I'm going to assign it to a different group. So I have a handful of different groups inside my system right now. Maybe I want to assign this only to the academics group. I'm going to go ahead and save. And when I go to that edit view again, as my level 10 administrator, I still see that button. Access settings are not affecting me. But if I check this page in and come back to my world as my marketing person, a quick refresh. And I'll see here that button for that main content editable region is now missing for me. The region still exists, all the content's still here, but it just means that I do not have access to this particular region to be able to open it and edit it. So why would you ever want to do this? Well, your main content editable region, chances are if they have access to the page, you're going to want them to make adjustments to that main content region. But if your particular design has certain regions like side regions or top regions or bottom regions or it's slider image choosers or things like that, that should be restricted to a particular group, you can do that inside the page code. So if your design intends for this side content region to only have, say, marketing information in it, I could lock it to everyone except the marketing team. So only the marketing team would be able to make edits to that particular section. A good tip for when you're creating and locking out your different editable regions, when creating groups for these, the way that we used it, let's find that main content again. Too many spaces. The fact that we assign this to the academics group is probably not the best practice. What I would rather do is have a group specifically named for this region. This way, if I have new staff members who I'm adding into, say, the academics group, but I don't necessarily want them to be able to edit that particular region, I can have these two abilities separated out into different groups. So if we had, say, that example of the side content should always be the marketing group, I could call it like a side content group and then have the appropriate marketing users as part of that group. But then if I get a new marketing intern who's like a student intern, I won't worry if I add them into my marketing group because I know they won't be able to get into those regions. I have it separated out. A couple other things to be aware of when we're making or setting up this group access stuff. If I have inside this group, double quotes, a group listed that doesn't exist inside my system. So I'll tell you right now, I don't have a main content group. That's not actually a group that I have set up. As a level 10 administrator, I'm still going to see it. So if there are regions that you only want your administrators to have access to, you can essentially fill in that double-sided quotes with just about anything you want. I've seen some schools who literally have inside this group access, none. Because it's a group that doesn't exist inside the system, it means that no one has access to it unless you're one of those administrators. An important second note, this attribute is required in order for that button to exist. If I completely take out that group attribute and hit save, notice even as a level 10, the button's not there. I need to define something. Even if it's a group that doesn't exist, I have to have some group attribute in that source code in order for a button to exist. So if you're making adjustments and changes like this, and you suddenly realize, oh my goodness, there's no button anymore, you may have accidentally just removed that attribute. Not a big deal. Back inside the system, we'll go ahead and just put that attribute back in. Save. And then back to my edit view, and I can see my button is back. Perfect. All right, so in addition on individual pages of setting access to individual editable regions, you can also set access to individual parameter fields. So keep in mind, in order for a lower level user to even see these fields, they must be level 5 or above. So if you're level 4 or below, parameters is not an option for you. So let's check the page back in. We'll take a look at the world again as my level 6. Checking out the page and clicking properties, I can see parameters. So I can see all of my regions right here. All of these fields are available for me to see. Maybe for this particular page, I don't want that image slider region to be available to everyone. Maybe I want to restrict just that particular region to someone else. Checking the page back in. As the level 10, I'm going to go into source code again, and I'm going to go searching for the name that's on that particular field. There it is. So just like how my editable regions were a pair of nodes, my parameters are the same thing here. So I can see on the outside, I have an OUC properties node, and then inside of it, each one of these individual parameters is an individual question. So if I wanted to restrict a singular question, I could do it here. So here's my question for that image slider region. Let's go ahead and change this. Maybe I'll give this to the admissions group. Save. Again, I'm going to check the page back in so that my level 6 can take a look at it. Quick refresh. I'll check the page out to me. Now taking a look at parameters, notice I don't have that image slider region option. So this is a quick way for me to be able to turn on or off certain regions depending upon which group the people are in. I have seen some schools use this specifically for certain settings that they only want, say, administrators to have access to. You can set it up so that way the group on it is either a group of none or a group that does not have an actual group inside OU Campus. And then those are going to only be visible to your administrators. An important note, notice that I have left column options here, and my first field here is enable column. This kind of section title here is controlled in a very particular way inside that page source. So again, I'm looking at a parameter node, and this one happens to have an attribute called section. This is what's creating that title for me in my list of parameters. But inside that particular section, I had an option for enable column, I had an option for directory navigation, I have an option for quick links and content region. Even though all of these are still kind of listing underneath the same section heading, they are separate nodes. So if I change this access group on just the one that has the section on it, save. Back to my world as a level 6, quick refresh. Again, checking out the page. I no longer have that top section that told me the left column options, but notice my directory navigation and quick links content region, they're still here. So if I wanted to turn off every question that was inside that section, I would need to set that group access on every single one. So they're not grouped together the way it kind of looks like it is here. Instead, your section titles are associated with the question that, or the field that's immediately after it, and then each one is kind of a standalone after that. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Excellent. All right. So that kind of walks us through when we're talking about individual pages. Let's go back into the world as a level 10 administrator, and let's talk about some things that you can do at the site level. So hovering over setup, this field I can only see if I'm a level 10. And going to site, I have a singular site here. Hovering over edit, I have an option for site access. You're going to notice a lot of these options here are exactly the same as what I would see if I was looking at any directory or folder, but there are a little bit of additional implications here. So again, I have the option for recursive modification. Again, at this very, very top level, I'm going to need to be careful. If I just spent the last 3 weeks setting up all of my access settings everywhere, and I come up here to the top level and then I click to apply, I'm going to push these settings down into everything. I will wipe out any of the changes that I've made. So be very cautious about when you're using recursive modification. I'm going to stick with apply all settings to the root folder only, because we've already started doing some of our access settings. So now the access group that we have here actually has to do with who has the ability to create new content at the root of my site. So back to the world is my level 6, my marketing person. Back to content pages. And I'll navigate to the root of my site by hitting the little house. So as you can see right here, my site level access is currently set to everyone. So as my random marketing person, I can hit plus new and create new content right here. I can even upload random pictures, images, documents, files. I have the ability to add a whole bunch of stuff to the root of my site right now. The root of your site is really somewhere that you should be protective over. At the root of your site, you should have your home page. You may have like a sitemap page or an A to Z page. You may have a search page, but generally speaking, you're not going to have a lot of individual pages or files here. More often than not, it's going to be your root level sections, and from that point forward, you'll have the rest of your content. So we're going to lock down that root, so that way my marketing person can't accidentally add pieces of content or upload things here. There's a question that asks, can you set access to properties? So back into an individual page. I think we're talking about this properties button here. The button is always going to be available, but depending upon the user level, you may or may not see this parameters option. Parameters is only available if you're a level 5 or above. So if I was a 4 or below, I'd still see reminders, I'd still see log, but I would not see parameters. That you can set. All right, back to the root of our site. Let's talk about taking away these buttons. So back to my level 10 administrator, remember, I was in setup sites, and hovering over the site, I'm going to go to site access. So not applying it recursively, just applying this to the root level. I'm going to change this access group to say administrators only. So now only my level 9s and 10s will have those buttons available. No one else will. Bottom right-hand corner, save. So as my level 10, going to content pages, to the root of the site, I do still have those buttons. But checking the world as my marketing person, quick refresh. Notice at the root of the site, those buttons no longer exist. So it's a nice way for me to be able to keep the root of my site nice and clean, and I don't need to worry about people coming in and out. All right. When I go inside any of the other sections, I do still have the new button. I do still have the upload button. And when I hit the new button, I'm going to see the templates that are available in this section and that are available to me. you can set access settings on individual templates. So let's say, for example, I have a template here for new blog subsite. Maybe I don't want my editors across the site being able to create that. Maybe I want to restrict that so only a particular group or only my administrators can do that. Cancel. Back into the world as my level 10, hovering over setup, I have the option of templates. This is going to give me a listing of all of the individual templates that are available, not necessarily all the ones that are going to be seen. Your school may have template groups set up, which is an excellent way to kind of direct your users onto what types of pages are available in each section. We'll actually talk more about template groups in next month's Training Tuesday when we talk about wrangling your users. But for now, let's find that new blog subsite. Here it is. Right now it's set with an access of everyone. I'm going to switch this. So maybe for this, sure, let's say my admissions group is going to be responsible for creating blog subsites, and they're going to be the only group who's going to be doing it. Bottom right-hand corner, save. So now, as my level 10, again, access settings don't apply to me. So if I'm inside, which section we were in? We're in academics before. So inside academics, when I hit plus new, I still see that blog subsite. And anyone in the admissions group would also see the blog subsite. But as my marketing person, quick refresh. Inside the exact same section, when I hit plus new, blog subsite is no longer an option. I don't have access to that particular template. So even though it's technically available here, because I don't have access to it, I won't see that option. So again, another way that you can just restrict what types of pages are going to be available and who can create them. Excellent. All right, continuing down the list of things that we can set access to, we can talk about snippets. So back to that library page. I don't have main content editable region anymore, but I'll open up this side region. Still works. And remember, your icon for a snippet is a little puzzle piece. So clicking on my snippet right now, I see the listing of all of the different snippets that are currently available. I can sort by different categories. So if I'm looking just at the generic ones, and again, your implementation will probably have different titles for your categories. But I can see right here, I have a handful of different snippets available to me. So maybe this accordion one, that's just getting used too much across the site. It's getting a little crazy. We're going to restrict access on that one. So maybe I don't want my marketing team to have access to this one. Instead, I'm only going to allow, say, the athletics team to use it. They're using it appropriately in their section. You guys can have it. Back into the world is my level 10. Hovering over content, I'm going to go to snippets. I'm going to go into the generic category, or I could just click snippets. Either way, it'll give me the listing. And I want to open up that accordion one. All right, so from here, there are a couple of different things that I could do in order to direct how this snippet will be used. In next month's training, we'll talk more about available for all sites. But since today we're talking about access, we're going to focus on this available to field. This field is going to dictate who actually sees this snippet as an option in the list. So right now it's set to everyone. We're only going to let the athletics group have it. They're using it on their particular pages. I'll go ahead and hit save. Perfect. So now, again, as a level 10 administrator, I see all. So if I go into some random page and I take a look at the snippets, the accordion's still here. It's still available to me as an administrator. But back to the world as my marketing person. Quick refresh. Again, I'll open up that region and I'll click on my snippets option and notice, I'll even filter down a little bit, accordion's not available to you anymore. So if there are particular snippets that you have that are designed to be used on particular page types, and those particular page types are supposed to be restricted to a particular department, you could restrict the snippet too, to make sure that it's not accidentally getting sprinkled all over the place. All right, in addition to our snippets as reusable content you can set access on, you can do the same for your assets. Your icon for assets inside your editor is this set of arrows moving in a square. And again, when I list that, I have a whole listing of all of my different assets here. So up at the top, we have 4 different ones for blogs. So maybe we'll talk about this top one, this featured blog post list. Maybe this is not something that I want this particular user to have. I instead want to restrict it to a different group. Back to my world is my level 10. Hovering over content and going to assets. There's that blog featured post list here. Hovering over it, hovering over edit, I have the option for access. And I have 2 different options here when I'm talking about access for an asset. Access group for an asset has to do with which group is allowed to get inside this particular asset inside the asset manager and make changes to it. This is something that you're probably going to restrict depending upon which asset it is. So if this is the asset where you keep, say, your tuition number, you probably don't want that available for everyone. So you can lock this down so only certain groups are able to edit it. There's an additional caveat on that. Anyone who is part of this group would still need access to the asset manager itself. We'll talk about that momentarily. Available to is which groups are allowed to actually place it on a page. So this is what I want to restrict right now. So I don't want my marketing person to find this particular blog features blog post list. So we'll switch this. Maybe it'll go to my academics group instead. Quick save. Again, as my level 10 administrator, I'm going to see all. So opening up that editable region, opening up my assets, yep, still there. But back to the world is my level 6. It used to be here. Quick refresh. Again, opening up that editable region and opening up my asset list. Notice that featured list is not available anymore. So I can restrict who's actually seeing it in this list to make sure it's not getting placed on pages. Question, can you go back to that access screen for a sec? Absolutely. So from content, I'd go to assets, and then hovering over the asset that I want to set access to, hovering over edit, I'd click on the access button. So from here, again, that top level access group is who can edit this asset, who can make changes to the information in it. Available to has to do with who can actually take it and place it on a page. Cool. All right, so that top level, that access group who can come in here and actually edit it. In order for someone to be able to edit it, they have to be able to get to this screen. You can limit who can get inside this asset manager. So back to the world is my level 6. Right now, when I hover over content, I see both pages, which gets me my pages list view, and I see assets. I can take that button away. So if you want to be very, very restrictive about who can get into Asset Manager at all, you can do that. Back to the world is my level 10 administrator. I'm going to hover over Setup and go to Sites. I'm going to hover over my site, hover over Edit, and I have this option here for Asset Access. From here, again, I have recursive modification, but it does again have some additional applications. If I choose Apply All Settings to New Assets and selected Settings to Existing Access, this is the recursive modification option. So I'm going to apply these at the top level and push these options all down. So if I change my access group here, it's going to change who would see the option in that drop-down menu under Content, but it'll also reset the access on every single one of my assets. I've already started setting assets or access on my assets, so I don't want to wipe out all of those changes I've made. So I'm not going to choose recursive this time. Instead, I'm going to say with Apply All Settings to New Assets only. So what will happen is that this access group will allow me to decide who gets access to the actual drop down in that content menu. And from this point forward, this will be the default option when any new assets are created. It can still be adjusted on an asset by asset basis, but it'll just change the default. So if I go ahead and change this, maybe only financial aid is going to be coming in and managing my assets. Maybe they're all tuition numbers and finance numbers, and they're the only ones that I'd want in here. Bottom right-hand corner, save. So now again, as my level 10, hovering over content, I'm always going to see assets. I'll always be able to get inside my asset manager. But back to the world as my marketing person, quick refresh. Now when I hover over content, notice that extra option is gone. I only have my pages list view. So I can restrict who can get into that actual menu itself. All right, let's say we are okay with marketing getting in there. So hovering over edit, hovering over asset access, I'm going to go ahead and just change this to the marketing group so our marketing people will be able to get in there. Refresh. Perfect. Assets are back. And now from here, because my user is a level 6, I can hit that plus new. Probably should have mentioned this earlier. That plus new button is only going to be available to your users who are levels 4 or above. So if you don't want your users creating new content at all, you'd rather that they just edit what exists, you can make them a level 3 or below. So right now, inside the Asset Manager, I have 5 different options here. So my particular implementation does have the live delivery platform, which gives me image galleries and forms. So I do have all of these different options available to me to create new things. Now, let's pretend that I think I'm really good at source code. And let's pretend I break things really well when I use source code. So maybe as an administrator, I don't want anyone else to be able to make source code assets. I want to restrict that particular one. That can be done. Back to the world as my level 10, still inside setup sites, still hovering over the site, hovering over edit and going to site access. Now I'm going to scroll down. Nope. Asset access, my apologies. Now I'm going to scroll down and notice I have a whole option here called asset creation access. This is going to be who can create each one of these kinds. So source code assets currently set to everyone. Don't think so. We'll switch that over to administrators only. Save. And again, as my administrator, if I go into my asset menu and I click on new, I have source code available to me. As my level 6 though, quick refresh. When I hit that plus new, notice that option's gone. So I can be really restrictive. So if you happen to have a situation where you have a lot of your editors creating a bazillion galleries and placing them everywhere, you can take that away. You can restrict it so that way only certain groups or certain people can create those particular assets. Beautiful. All right, 2 more things that we're going to talk about. The next one has to do with your production server. So again, I'm still that level 6 marketing person, hovering over content, going to pages. Let's go back to that library page. And notice I have a publish button here. So I'm not involved in any kind of workflow. I don't have any approver assigned to me or assigned to the piece of content here. I have the ability to publish. There is a sweeping way for me to be able to restrict who can publish. And it has to do with setting access on my production server. Back to my level 10 administrator. Hovering over setup, I'm going to go to site. And then hovering over that site, hovering over edit, I'm going to go just to site. I'm going to scroll down until I get to that production server FTP settings. And the last option in this is available too. So this has to do with who has the ability to actually publish out to this target. Right now it's set to everyone. If I change this, say, to administrators only, it would mean that anyone inside the system who is not an administrator would have to submit the page to someone else in order for it to get published. It is unrestricted when we're talking about approvers though. So what does that mean? So let's make this change here. We'll hit save. All right, so now this production server can only be published to if you're an administrator. Back to the world as my level 6, my marketing person, a quick refresh. Notice I don't have a publish button anymore, I just have a submit. I did not select any approvers, I did not enforce any workflows, but I took away the ability to publish to that target. But the unrestricted part comes when I hit submit. So now my drop-down list is actually going to give me a list of every single user who exists inside the system. whether they're an administrator or not. So that's an important thing to keep in the back of your mind. My marketing person could send this page to a level 2 person who maybe doesn't even have access to the page itself. So if you're going to restrict access to your production server, I would recommend taking the additional time to assign approvers either to the content themselves or to the users themselves. So that way you have locked in who the page will go to. So that way you can make sure it's going to a person with the appropriate level and the appropriate access to actually be able to publish the page. All right. Last thing going down our line, we're going to talk about gadget access. So my sidebar, I have this little plug here. Ooh, I have a question that say, can the approvers be a group? At this point in time, no. The way that approvers are set, it's a singular user to singular user relationship or a piece of content to singular user relationship. It is a suggestion that we've gotten, and I know it's one that our product team is looking into right now. I have seen some schools who have set up kind of workarounds for it, where they have a singular user created, but a whole group of people have access to that user. So you would create a user called like marketing department, and everybody in that department would be able to log into it. Second question, can you please explain enforce approver? I've read conflicting information on when to use it or what it's used for. Absolutely. So let's go back into the world as my level 10. We're going to take off that production server restriction. Set it back to everyone. Save. So now we're back to where we started with our marketing person, and we'll use them as the guinea pig. So they can publish right now. When I'm setting approvers, I can do it in 2 ways. I can set it on the user itself, or I can set it on the piece of content. So going to the user, there's my marketing employee. I can set an approver right here on them. So here's my approver. I can say that me, Barbara McQuillan, I must be the approver. If I do not enforce it, it means that when my marketing person tries to submit a page, I will be the suggested option, but they can still choose other people. If, back inside that marketing employee, I do enforce the approver, save, back to the world as my marketing person. Now, when I go to submit, this to field is locked. It has to go to Barbara. There's no other choice. So situations where I'd see where you would not enforce an approver tend to work if you do not have a whole bunch of people inside the system. So if you have a limited number of people and just about everybody has access to just about everything, and you're kind of doing like a multiple eyes on a page kind of process, having a non-enforced approver would work. I would say generally, most schools that I've seen are going to be very particular about who the pages should go to. So at that point, it does become a little bit more important to have it restricted. To go back to the previous question about can the approvers be a group, if your team, who are users inside OU Campus, are receptive to coaching, you could leave your approvers unenforced and specifically tell everyone you need to send for approval to these 5 people or one of these 5 people only. So if you feel that your team could adapt well to that kind of instruction, you could do it that way. But it would still be a singular person who receives the page at the end. Perfect. All right, so let's talk about gadget access. So on my gadget sidebar, clicking on the little plug, I'm going to see a listing of my gadgets. Now, gadgets can be hidden or they can be made visible based upon my preferences. So I'm going to start by just taking a look at the gadgets that I have right now. Keep in mind, gadgets are contextual. The number of gadgets that I'm going to see here is going to be based upon what screen I'm looking at. So I'm going to turn them all on for a quick second so I can kind of demonstrate that for you. So when I'm on my pages list view, notice I only have a few gadgets that are available to me. When I click inside a page, notice I have a couple more that become available to me. And notice when I'm inside an editable region, I get even more. It all depends upon which gadget is going to be available to me based upon where I'm sitting. But with that said, as an administrator, I can still restrict who can see particular gadgets. So right now, I have this My Checked Out Content gadget, and it is visible regardless of where I am inside the system. I think it is a super helpful gadget. So if you guys aren't currently using it, I highly recommend it. It essentially gives you a listing every piece of content that you have checked out. So before I log out every single time, I check the My Checked Out Content gadget to see if I've accidentally picked up any pages that I don't actually need. And from here, I can hit the little light bulb and it'll check it back into the system. So very helpful gadget, but let's destroy the world and get rid of it. So let's say for whatever reason, you've decided you don't want a particular group to have the My Checked Out Content gadget. Back to the world is my level 10. Hovering over setup, I'm going to go to gadgets. Each one of my individual gadgets are going to be listed here. So here's my checked out content. Hovering over that row, again, I have an access option. And from here, I can decide who it's available to. So I can restrict this based upon which group. So maybe for me, I can switch this over so only athletics gets my checked out content. Quick save. Again, as a level 10, I'm still going to see it. But as my marketing person, quick refresh, the My Checked Out Content gadget is gone. So I'm using My Checked Out Content just as an example because I know it displays everywhere. I would not necessarily recommend restricting that one, but there may be some in here that you'd rather restrict. So you do have a page analytics gadget and a site analytics gadget. Those two gadgets will hook up with your Google Analytics information if you've supplied that information to OU Campus, and they'll give you specific page or your whole site analytics right here. That might not be something you want all of your users to have. You may only want, say, the marketing department to have that. So you could change access on those, so that way only the marketing department would have access to those two. Marketing. So lots of control that you guys have inside OU Campus. Back over here, you're going to notice you also have this other option in this access section called display option. I'm going to just preview that. We're going to talk more about that during next month's Training Tuesday when we talk about wrangling your users again. So keep that on the tip of your mind. If you really wanted to, I suppose you could check out our support site because it does have all of the information and documentation you need, but we'll get more into that next time. All right, so we talked about a whole bunch of different things that you can set access to. Remember, everything we've talked about today as an administrator, you'll still have access to. You'll still be able to get in, make changes, adjustments to those things. But generally speaking, all of your lower level users will be impacted when you're setting access the way we've talked about. All right, any additional questions, comments, or concerns? Oh, my pleasure. All right. Well, as people are either kind of wrapping up or typing, let's go ahead and just preview. Our next Training Tuesday is going to be held on September 25th, and we're going to be covering the topic of wrangling your users. So I'll be back with you guys then. We'll talk about some different things that you can do to direct your users and even your administrators inside OU Campus, so that way you have complete control over what's going where.
Yes, and this session is recorded and it will be posted up on the support site later today, so you can view it if you want. And beyond that, if there's not any other questions. Okay, well, thank you everybody very much for attending this month's Training Tuesday. We look forward to seeing you back next month, and don't forget to fill out the feedback survey after you close the session. We love hearing from you, and it helps us tailor our Training Tuesday sessions to what you guys want to see. So if there's any topics that you want to learn about, please let us know in the feedback survey that will pop up after this webinar ends. Thank you everybody for attending, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you very much. Take care.